Welcome back, guys. So it's that time of the year where we're starting to kind of round off the performance of all the clubs and all the categories to give you guys the sense of maybe what you could pick up in a bargain, what's been the best performers of the year. We're going to try and do that throughout, from literally wedge, from
top
putter,
to bottom. Yeah.
really putter all the way
yeah.
to driver.
It's a good point to say, picking up a bargain, because we are starting to see stuff get released, pre-released, and not that it's out now.
Yeah.
But people do look in the off season, or maybe you don't have an off season and you're just shopping for clubs in general. And I think the idea for this, we did a little bit of it last year. I think we may have just done a couple club categories.
Yeah.
But we were thinking that based on you've had a whole season of fits yourself, plus obviously the bays beside you with the boys fitting.
Yeah.
So there's so many clubs in each category that you can look at and know that this club is good for spinning the ball more. This club is good for whatever it may be. So kind of want to make a nice summary across all categories for basically what to look for when you go shopping. Exactly.
And we, discussing doing this, we don't want to go down the route of saying this is the best driver, because there is no way that you can represent the masses well enough to say that a driver is the best driver.
There just can't be a best driver. There just isn't.
But there is certain criteria that a player would like a driver to, fulfill that would make it the best for them.
For that person.
So, you might look at something like an M5, and that might be the most adjustable driver versus the F9. But if it comes to ball speed, you might look at the F9 and go, yeah, that's a little bit quicker than an M5. So depending on what it is you're looking for, there will be better drivers for some than others. So that's the way we're going to try and structure this. And I think that's the best way to do it. Now, we're starting to hear a little bit about what's being replaced, what's not being replaced. So we can probably share most of that information now in terms of what will move forward. Yeah, so you'll at least know that you'll be looking for price reductions on certain things. Exactly. Today we're going to start with wedges. Wedges, yeah. So we've decided to sort of break down the criteria on the wedges. So we've got the wedge that has the best ball speed retention, the best spin production. We've got best launch control, and I determine launch control by the consistency to fly through a certain window. Right. Okay, so I really look for wedges to do the same thing, over and over again. We also have look and feel. We know that that's important. It's not to be overlooked. I mean, obviously here we're looking at performance primarily. Always, but look and feel. We're not. Doesn't matter if they're the best numbers in the world. Most of our customers will not buy it if you don't like the look. You don't like the look and you don't like the feel. And last but not least, and I think this is a really interesting one, because not a lot of people will talk about value, right? So you've got performance versus cost. Yep. There might be a point where you get a little less spin, a little bit more varied, launch conditions, but you're, 30% cheaper. Yeah, and that adds up if you get 3 wedges. That's right. It's going to add up. Exactly, and might kind of give someone the opportunity to buy something else in the bag that might help. So or upgrade a shaft or something like that too. Definitely. So value has to be part of the equation. So that's our criteria on the wedges. Cool. So why don't we do kind of each category one at a time? Correct. You've got your picks already prepared, so let's dive in. Okay, let's do it. Okay. Sounded better. That's good. Lots of spin. Oh, lovely. Okay, next up, Glide 3.0. I think it's fair to say this will be the wedge we do the most volume in right now. It gives you a little bit of forgiveness, obviously. Spin off is great. It's really forgiving. Like all that criteria that we talked about at the top of the episode, is this one would really fall into top performer in most of those categories. The only one it might fall into a little bit further down the pack might be on looks and feel, if you're being harsh. That's probably the only, I mean, it's obviously, it looks like a game improvement club, which for the wrong player would be a detraction, but
At address, I don't think it looks bad at address at all. It does have a little bit of offset look to it versus the other ones that kind of have none.
I think what we'll see though is performance really outweighs sort of the aesthetics in this one, and I just believe that most people should and would benefit from using a wedge like this.
It's probably the case for almost everybody, isn't it?
I think it's a segment of the market that should expand.
Yeah.
Better.
That's a goodie.
That looked really good.
Felt nice.
Perfect. Okay, so there's 2 wedges on the test today that really we probably don't have as much information or depth of information as we would about the others. So
based on the release date being later.
Exactly. So there were later releases. So the Mill Grind 2 with the raw face, which is what we're going to test now, and obviously the Callaway Mac Daddy 5.
Yeah. 2 very good looking wedges that I think have been very well reviewed so far. Like they've had a lot of promise, so worth considering.
Definitely. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up to good performers. I mean, for me, the Ping is probably going to be the wedge to beat on this type of test with all those sort of criteria that we've set out. So it'll be really interesting to see how they stack up.
It's a little thin.
Tell you what, it's flying really nice.
Yeah, they seem to go all the same distance roughly. That's good. Zip. Whoop.
Next up, Cleveland RTX 4. I think this is already, unless it just doesn't perform, which we know is going to perform, it's a really good wedge, this would already be #1 in the value category.
Saving about 40, 50 bucks on average.
Yeah,
up
sometimes
here.
a little bit more. The Glide is, I think the Glide's a little over 200 bucks here in Canada. This is 149 here in Canada. It comes with a Dynamic Gold Tour issue shaft. You get a lot of bang for your buck out the Cleveland wedges.
Absolutely.
You really, really do. So they improved it so much over RTX, in my opinion. I know a lot of people quite like the functionality of the offset on RTX 3. I wasn't one of them.
Right.
I didn't like it. I think they really, really improved it this year.
Better.
That's nice. That's right on your number, that one. Really nice.
Yeah, I like the look of that flight.
I mean, it's kind of hard for me to say right now. It looks like you're making some of your best swings. I don't know if that's just a compliment to the wedge and how well and how consistently it's performing. We talked earlier on about sort of launch control as a performance characteristic, and this really is doing well from that standpoint.
Because it's there's a bit of a trap to fall into with wedges where people go, the one that spins the absolute most is the best wedge.
The best one.
It's not necessarily the case. What you want is it to spin exactly the same every time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Down. Get down. Yep, good. So we've got the Callaway, the Mac Daddy 5, probably the one that came with the most hype. I think a lot of reviews and a lot of outlets out there saying that this was on a different level when it comes to spin production and stuff. We never saw that.
No, we saw it as something that performed well.
Yeah.
Looked really good.
Yeah.
And especially at address. But no, it wasn't an outlier, that's for sure.
There was a recent video I caught up on which was talking about this one being sort of as much as 1,000 RPMs and spin more than any other wedge.
Really?
That is just not the truth.
I can't imagine that being the case.
It's not.
Yeah.
It absolutely is
that
not.
Would mean I'd have to spin this at 13,000 right now. Which I'm not going to do.
The way that wedges are regulated now in terms of the face roughness, the groove regulation and depth. I mean, sure they've added some new features to the face of this that will push those boundaries a little bit more. to the tune of outperforming every other wedge by 10%.
No.
You know, if the average 56-degree wedge would spin about 10,000, which would be fair.
Yep.
To have another 1,000 on top of that,
yeah,
that's a big ask.
It'd be a big ask.
Big ask.
I agree.
But let's see. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it looks really good. That's for
Yeah.
sure. At address, it's probably one of the better looking ones of the group.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Very nice. That's a lovely wedge shot, Matty.
Ooh.
Oh. Same. Really good swing. Okay, test number 1 in the books of the best value, or are we calling it best value,
best performance? Well, we're covering both, really, aren't we?
Really everything that is built into the decision making with what makes the best product in each category.
Not a surprise in category 1, ball speed retention was ping.
Was the ping. So we do definitely see the value there of the cavity back.
Yeah. And you've seen that.
Most people will.
You've seen that when you go pitching wedge, their first wedge, if it's a glide and it's a gap wedge, you find that spacing is much easier because it doesn't lose ball speed the way a blade wedge does.
Correct.
So
definitely.
that's a no-brainer. It's good to see it, obviously it perform the way it usually does, but great performer in that category.
Definitely. And then jumping into spin production. The glide also performed really well. So there was actually only 16 RPMs. The TaylorMade was actually the highest.
It was very spinny.
It was really high spin, and we're using a rusted face in the MG2.
And probably not like super rusted. I would say if it got extremely rusty over the course of a season, that number may even be able to go up a little bit higher.
Launch control, which was again the ball flight sort of being as consistent as it possibly could be, seeing the ball going through that same launch window. Standard deviation of the launch angle was extremely low. Not the lowest. We did see the Cleveland RTX was the tightest.
It was the tightest
on launch angle, but it was actually the widest on spin as well. So
it would have been RTX if it weren't for that spin number.
Yeah.
They both had a very similar looking flight, but that Callaway, when you look at the spin standard deviation all the way to ball speed, was very very tight.
So look and feel.
This one gets subjective. We had a little chat just off camera just now. I think you could go either way between Vokey or Callaway. I can definitely see why you would have picked Callaway. To me, the Vokey is the best looking one, but they're both extremely good looking address and I guess the rear badging and just the overall look of it. I don't think anyone would be unhappy with the look of either of them. The
TaylorMade and the Ping are a little bit more of a technology story.
You can see what's going on there.
Lots of tech on the front and the back.
Yeah.
I think on the other three, there's a little bit more hidden sort of tech in there. So
definitely,
they're a little more appealing
for sure.
And then it comes down to value, that cost versus performance.
Which is a big one.
Very
big one.
So based on the consistency of how good they all performed, standard deviation on all the criteria that we're looking at, all the factors, we're saying the RTX 4 is probably where you're going to get your best bang for your buck.
I think it's a no-brainer. So at full price, they were still $20-$30 cheaper.
Yeah, they were. So I think through the year in Canada, they were about 179, probably down in the US, probably 159-ish. So they're now down at 149 here. Yeah. So it's $60 cheaper than a glide. At time of filming this, that's a no-brainer. Yeah. You may argue it had a little trade-off on spin. Yeah. Now that will only matter to someone who wants more spin. You may get plenty of people like me. I could care less. I don't need more spin. So that wedge is a great deal. That's exactly it. Less spin is not necessarily a bad thing. Not at all. But like we talked about with the Callaway wedge, the standard deviation is a little wide. So maybe there's a little bit of a leak on that. So, but that's just what we found. Yeah, it might be totally different for someone with a different swing path and loft delivery, but it was a good wedge by all accounts, and at that price, I mean, hard to go wrong. I love it. Good. Okay, so more to come in this series. I think this is going to be great. I think we're going to really be able to establish not just what the best wedges, drivers, irons are, but what in what category, with what performance characteristics you're looking for, how they all stack up.
And that's the
against one
most
another.
useful list to me, is then you can watch and go, I'm the person that needs more spin. That's the one for me. I'm the person that's inconsistent. Callaway's the one for me.
Exactly.
And whatever it may be. So
That's exactly right.
Happy with how this went.
Good stuff. Okay, I'm looking forward to getting deeper into this series. I think this is going to be some of our best stuff. I really do.
I hope so too.
Excellent. Okay, see you again soon.